Republican Congressman Michael McCaul, ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, we saw your questioning of the Secretary of State yesterday. What did you think of what he said today? And one of the things that I really zeroed in on was that this administration has said, look, it was a binary choice. It was either we get out on the date certain or we face a renewed all-out shooting war with the Taliban. He was asked about that a couple of times. I don't know if you saw those answers or not, but were you satisfied with anything you heard from him in the last 2 days?
No, I think that was a false choice. I think the idea that we had to choose between Bagram and the embassy gave our military a really poor choice. And that's exactly what happened. He had a date certain, unconditional surrender to the Taliban. They blame everyone else but themselves. This president made this decision. He owns it. And when they blame the prior administration that had a conditions-based agreement, it's just wrong. I can't imagine the former president, Trump, allowing for an unconditional surrender to the Taliban, allowing them on the 20th anniversary to raise the Taliban flag over the presidential palace and paint it on our embassy wall. The biggest point here is a divergence between the Intelligence Committee community assessment and the State Department. I was getting these back in April, May, when this very divergent points of view. Intelligence community got it right. They predicted this fall the Taliban would take over, Afghan military would fall because of lack of air support, and the embassy would be in question. I blame the administration for not heeding those warnings and yet going with their politicos in the White House rather than the top generals and intelligence community. And that's what my committee, what we will be investigating.
Congressman, the significant leverage that we heard from Blinken himself, that he believes the world now holds over the Taliban. He noted the travel restrictions that are in place, the UN sanctions against the Taliban, and Afghanistan's financial reserves are currently frozen, he said, in banks that are almost exclusively American. Does any of that give you any confidence in how we will deal with the Taliban and their actions in the future?
Well, I think freezing their assets is a positive thing. But that's about it, because right now we're dark in Afghanistan. We don't have Bagram. We don't have eyes and ears. We can't see Russia, China, and Iran anymore. Our adversaries are emboldened. What leverage do we have over the Taliban now? And what I fear the most, Sandra, is that Zal Khalilzad, the special envoy, and Blinken are going to recommend to the president that we legitimize this government. And as you point out in your prior piece, who are these people? The leader of the Haqqani network, people who harbored bin Laden, all having pre-9/11 al-Qaeda ties. This is not a new, improved Taliban. This is the same old Taliban. And it's going to get worse before it gets better.
You know, the United Nations says that the Taliban is breaking promises that it made about its treatment of women, about not conducting house-to-house searches, potential reprisal killings. And when I saw that report, Congressman, I said to myself, well, that's a real surprise.
And it's no surprise at all. We knew that exactly. The idea that the administration thought we'd have some last-minute negotiation with the Taliban was either just incompetent or extremely naive from a foreign policy standpoint. They are going door to door. And you know who I fear? The girls, the women that we tried to get in HK, into the airport, but also the interpreters who worked alongside our special forces have a bullseye on their back. John, I've had a lot of calls from interpreters from over there. They're terrified, because the Taliban is hunting them down as I speak. And when they find them, they take them to their families, they decapitate their families in front of them, and then they execute them. This is gruesome stuff. And the idea that this is professional businessmen-like people I don't know what they're thinking right now.
Congressman, when you say that, what are you doing when you get those phone calls from interpreters that helped U.S. forces on the ground there? What are you doing to help them? And is the administration not answering your call to get them help?
Well, we're gone. We have no Title 10 military presence, no Title 50 intelligence presence. What we did have in the closing days were the heroes, I call them, the operations like Dunkirk and Pineapple, that we were, as a parallel organization, privately funded, where we were able to get thousands of interpreters and thousands of American citizens out of Afghanistan when our own State Department would not authorize to open the gate into the airport. That four busloads of little girls, orphans, Afghan girls in the choir at the American University, the state would not authorize that to open. And they had to, for 17 hours, sat there, turned around. Now they are enslaved by the Taliban. Yeah. It's one of the saddest things I think I've seen in my entire congressional career.
Ted Cruz from Texas just teed off on that in that hearing room. We're going to play that exchange out in its entirety in just a bit, really taking on this administration for whom the president said the buck stops with him. And there was certainly a lot of blame placed on the previous administration in that hearing room today. Congressman, thank you.
Thanks, Congressman.
No, thanks for having me.